Well, hello everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey Wednesdays. Today I'm joined by Warren and Nick of Almost Sex, and we're so excited to chat with them today about their journey as a band and their upcoming single, Lie Heartfelt. Hey guys, how's it going?
Hi.
Good. How's it going?
Going great. Thanks for having us.
Good, of course. So first question would be for anyone who may not know you all, how did you get started as a band and, make Almost Sex happen?
So we actually met last March.
It's coming up on a year, actually.
Yeah, it's almost a year.
We met on Hinge on March 17th.
Yeah.
I'm not usually like a dates person, but that one felt important to know. It was March 17th of last year, like right at the beginning of the pandemic, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So about a year ago, we met on Hinge, and I was writing some things at the time and sent like a little excerpt of something over to Nick, and he really, really liked it. He was working on some music at the time. He was actually quarantined away from everybody, and he completely put a melody to the words that I had sent him, and we sort of started this kind of bizarre back and forth where we're like, okay, we're on a dating app and now we're actually making some stuff that we're really enjoying. And the process was definitely totally different because I would send him words and maybe some like vibe, adjectives or something, and then he would stay up like all night, and in the morning I would wake up and hear the words that I had written to this like super cool melody, which is just a really incredible experience. But yeah, I guess that's basically how we got started.
Wow, that's very interesting that you all met on a dating app. It sounds like, oh, let me just chat with this person, send them music. Oh, we're gonna start a band now. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know if we really thought it was going to become like an actual band until we met. I mean, like I was taking it really seriously. I mean, I think Warren was too. Like, it was one of those things where it's like, are we just doing this because it's a pandemic, and like what else would we be doing other than like, because everyone's like finding new things to do during the pandemic. So I was like, I never had written before like that, so I was like, this is really good, this is good for me, and I'm getting to know Warren while we're doing it. But then when we met, it was like, wow, we could actually really turn this into something.
Which part of that was before we actually met in person, we were just doing this back and forth thing for like 2 months because he stayed in Brooklyn and I got to go to my roommate's grandparents' really nice house in Vermont. So there were just like 4 of us there, like huddled for 2 months, but Nick was still in the city, so we couldn't actually meet in person. So I guess it was also something that kept the conversation definitely going for us and gave us a lot to, work on this project together. And who knows, if it weren't for the music, I mean, I think it would have worked out, but.
Oh, that's funny. So it's safe to say there's a musical partnership and a romantic partnership as well.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So when you all first met in person, what was that like? Just meeting each other and also being like, oh, I've been making music with this person for so long, now I get to finally like see who they are.
Well, I mean, it was like the most build up that I ever had to meeting somebody that I talked to on a dating app, because we had been talking and making music together for like 3 or 4 months by that point. And also we had, like, aside from making music, we were also like on FaceTime with each other like multiple times a week for like hours. So we really knew each other and we developed a rapport that way, like virtually. But when you first meet someone, you kind of have to like relearn how to know that. I had never really experienced it before, but it was just like an awkward getting to re-know each other period for like the first day or two. But then it really was awesome when we really clicked.
It was funny too, because like the first time he came over to my apartment, and so I actually did see him through the screen because it was in my like door buzzer thing. And I was like, hello. And it didn't it was like kind of awkward, but it smoothed out.
I couldn't get the buzzer to work.
Yeah, he couldn't get the buzzer to work, and then he had this mask that was too small for him, so whenever he came up, his like ears were like out like this.
I remember like stupidly, we had been quarantined, like we were quarantined separately so we could hang out. And then when I got in, I was like, wait, should I take off my mask? I didn't know. I was like, I just left my mask on for a while. And like,
Yeah.
I was like, you can take it off, you know. I was like, okay, sorry.
I mean, being with people in general, but like dating is just so hard in the pandemic, trying to figure out like how to be and relearn how to socialize with somebody, kind of like what you said, even though you like were talking for so long online, it's like, oh, I haven't like been with a person in real life for a while.
Yeah.
How do I do that?
Yeah, definitely.
But where did the name come from, Almost Sex? Like, how did that come about?
So after, I think it was after like a month or two of us doing this, we were like, well, if we were to start a band, like what would it be called? I had a band at that time, which eventually ended up just like collapsing into this. Actually, after a couple months of us doing this, I was kind of like, this is kind of doing better than my other band was, and like I like doing this more. So like some of the guys that were working with me in Night on the Sun, which was my old band, are now like kind of helping us. And like when we do eventually play live at some time, they'll play with us as a live band. But no, yeah. So Warren sent me a list of names that she had come up with over time, and most of them were like you were thinking of them for like an all-girl band.
Yeah.
So they weren't like the only one that I thought would like be kind of fitting for us was Almost Sex. It was like right at the top of the list too. So I was like, wow, that is awesome. Like right off the bat, I was like, oh, that's a really great name. I love that one.
I think it also sort of like had a feeling for us because when we chose the name, we hadn't met in person, and we're like, are we almost a band? Are we like almost dating? It's like almost something. I don't know. And it was kind of just like, I also did have that written down because I had made a list, like he said, for this like all-girl band that I dreamt about maybe being in one day, and I just collected band names over the years, so came in handy.
Yeah, it definitely seems very fitting because of your story and how it came to be, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely one of those things where I think whenever people ask us about that, I think they're hoping for us to say like, oh, it was like a lot of thought was put into it, like because of our origin story or whatever. But it's kind of it's one of those things that you kind of place the meaning onto after people are like impressed by it. So they're like, oh, well, I don't like lying, so just be honest about it. It was just a quick brainstorm, pretty much.
Yeah, it just worked out.
Yeah.
But to be fair, he says all the other band names on my list were shit.
I mean, what were the other ones?
Yeah, I need to hear some of the other ones.
The one was the Disco Ball Dumpster.
Yeah, it's not good.
The Stubborn Pussies. I thought that'd be like a good all-girl band.
That one,
Like, that
one works.
Yeah.
I don't know.
But I think Almost Sex is leagues above the other ones.
All right. That's fair.
For what everything turned out to be, I think it worked out well.
We'll take it.
Yeah, so this is a very new band, like about a year old, and it just seems like you just started releasing music towards the end of last year, like fall time. And a couple of the songs sound very kind of like folky, indie rock, kind of alternative style, but your newer song that's coming out on March 26th is more like electronic, dreamy, like trancey pop. And I would love to hear like the process behind kind of going between the different styles and like playing with those kind of things.
I mean, I feel like nowadays people tend to listen to music in playlist form more than anything else. I mean, sadly for the album format, which I really do like, but I think it seems to be going that way. So I like a lot of different kinds of music. I like to make different kinds of music, and so does Warren. So I felt like we think it's okay to just kind of bounce around a little bit, even if it might be initially confusing to people. I think there is, like, although the styles do change a lot, I think there is enough connective tissue, mainly through like the vocals and the lyrical content, that people can hold on to and have it be like an identifier. It was like, oh, like eventually when we put out, we only have, we're going to have 4 songs out, but I hope whenever we have more songs out, people will be able to, recognize it, even though it is very disparate genres and everything.
I also think like over writing those songs, each time we were kind of in a different like environment and mood, and I think that sort of as those changed, like whenever you think of maybe like an album, you think of it as this like collection that happened at once, but like letting us put out singles in this way, I think shows that maybe we were in different places at different times, trying on different styles and vibes, as kind of like the few months went on.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're still, like developing, finding a voice, finding what works, finding which ones, people jive with the most, and just also whatever we feel like making that day is kind of what the day we start the song is, sort of just like where it goes. And we're just trying not to like feel too restrained by genre.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also that like in my other band, Night on the Sun, it was kind of more like, I mean, this is like the most like synth wavy song, Heartfelt, that we have coming out that I've probably ever been a part of, which I'm excited about. But we were always like kind of more electronic tinged, like a lot of synths and sampley kind of things. But when we were doing stuff remotely through the quarantine, we were very acoustic based mostly, because a lot of times I would just be working with voice memo recordings and sending them back to her. I didn't have my recording equipment all the time. So I think we kind of wanted to stay true to that and do some of our stuff like pretty heavily acoustic, and then try to insert some of the more electronic elements as we go along.
Yeah. That's really cool, because I know a lot of bands right now that I've been talking to recently have been experimenting with different styles of music. And I think especially this time period too has had a lot of people being like, oh, well, I have this time to like try this new thing. Let me see if I can go this way or that way. And since you all are so new too, it's kind of cool that you're starting to just experiment with what people like to see. And you're like, well, I like this kind of music and this kind of music, and let's see what catches on. Well,
yeah.
What was the first song that you like started like sending lyrics back and forth to each other?
Well, the first one ever was actually, it was an excerpt of like a long piece of writing that I had done. So it didn't even rhyme. So Nick kind of put this just really cool instrumental behind it and did almost like a spoken word thing over it. And whenever he first said he was like gonna send me something, there's sort of like, I just matched with this dude on Hinge like a day ago, and I'm like, oh god, like what am I gonna say if it's so bad? Like, but then I got it, and I remember I was out walking with my roommate, and I was like, dude, you gotta listen to this, it's so good. And then like hearing my words, and then it kind of morphed into, he was like, well, can you write something that rhymes? Can you like do this more like in song form? And I was like, yeah, okay. And then so the first one wasn't exactly like a full song, but I still think it's really cool, and I want to release it someday.
Yeah, the first couple ones I don't think anyone has really heard much of yet. I think maybe we put like a couple clips of us doing it live on Instagram or something. But Knockoff, our first single, we actually wrote that together once, like in May. I think we will do something eventually with like the stuff we did during the quarantine, but I think we also just we know each other a lot better. We know the process more, and I always like writing with somebody in the room better than remote. So if you can do that, we kind of like the results more that way. But I think we'll do something with them eventually.
Yeah, I think we were just so excited when we finally did get together that we were like, yeah, we love everything that we did, but now let's like see what happens when we're together. And then it's just kind of kept going.
Yeah, because now that you get to experience like the energy of a person in front of you, you get to balance off of each other and work that way, which is exciting.
Yeah, like the writing process kind of, it was pretty similar to what we were doing during the quarantine, except during the quarantine, Warren would like send me lyrics, and then I would try to put melodies to those, which created some kind of interesting results and songs and just melodies that I would have probably never come up with before, because I'm a songwriter that kind of like, I mean, like a lot of songwriters do, I think you just kind of come up with a musical piece that you like, even whether it's like production based or just like guitar chords or piano or whatever, and then just kind of mumble to it until words come up, or you try to, come up with some thematic thing to put words onto those random vocal sounds. But instead of doing it that way, where she would send me lyrics first, we would like, I was sitting on the bed in this room actually, and I was just mumbling to her, and then she would write lyrics to that mumbling, which was pretty cool.
Nice.
Yeah, and it's been nice too, because we actually just put out like a little video clip of like, I guess we did Rocky Raccoon, the other cover that we did, but it's nice also being able to play in the same room and everything like that.
Yeah, we did. You're talking about the
Rainbow Connection, yeah, that we just put out.
Yeah, we did a cover of Kermit the Frog's famous song from the Muppet movie, the Rainbow Connection, which is I had just like re-listened to it for the first time a couple weeks ago, right?
Yeah.
And we just loved it, so we wanted to do a little cover of it.
Oh, that's so cute. That's awesome. I love that song. That's just a very like heartwarming, like nostalgic type of song.
Yeah, that's great.
Warren, were you in any bands before this? Because Nick would mention that he was.
No, Nick is a musical genius. He's been writing songs forever, and he just has like a backlog of cool melodies and things like at all times. He's completely a really well-rounded musician, songwriter, and producer. And so I'm catching up in a lot of ways. I went to school for architecture. So I have my architecture license, and I was classically trained in piano as a kid. I come from like a pretty musical family, so we would jam with like their friends, and I was just like kind of around music a lot growing up. And I can play, like I used to play covers though, like I never wrote my own things. So I would, cover like a Vance Joy song on, guitar or ukulele, and then play classical music on piano. So it's definitely been an adjustment, also playing with someone else in the way that like when you're recording and you very much have to be on the same time. And so I'm looking forward to, definitely, I've already grown so much as a musician just being around Nick, and growing even more whenever we can play live. And Nick's also been really open and great about the process, and I think we trust each other's opinions. And so even whenever he's producing, he's really like let me into that world. And so we'll both, have the headphones on, and he takes, my feedback, and we really have like a nice back and forth and process going on. And I'm just trying to like learn about production and like all these other things from him as well. And then it's just been nice because the other things that I sort of do have melded into our project. Like I paint, and the writing for the lyrics, and then actually one of the paintings that I did was the album art. So it's just been cool to see like our lives come together, and all of the things that we're interested in just sort of like meld into the project, I think, really nicely.
Yeah, that's really cool. Especially being able to take stuff from other parts of your life and bring it into your music. That's what the best thing about music is. It's like a collective pot of like everything that goes on.
Yeah.
I don't think I asked this when you first started talking about how you guys started sending stuff back and forth, but since you weren't really doing too much music before, what made you start like sending lyrics to him, like when you were talking over Hinge? How did that conversation?
I'm actually writing a book right now, and even like for Knockoff, the first song that we put out, the lyrics for that were sort of born from one of the lines from the book that I wrote. So I've just always been interested in writing, and that's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't even remember. I think like a lot of people were like really drunk that first week or so. I was at my parents' house for the first week because all my roommates got COVID like right away. So I was like, I gotta get out of here, and I didn't end up getting it because I wasn't there when they all got it anyway. But I was just drunk and on Hinge, and we met, and did I ask you like if I could see your stuff?
Something you were like, send me something that you were writing, and that's whenever I sent you like a little paragraph that you put in the spoken word thing.
Yeah.
Cool. How has it been for you, Nick, to like kind of take what Warren has and like make it into music?
At first it was like I said, it was really challenging to when we were working remotely to put just like lyrics on a sheet into a song. But as we went through that process, I think that really just doing that is a good exercise that I think a lot of songwriters should try, because I think it's kind of foreign to a lot of songwriters, because there are a few exceptions, but I think like songwriters generally are like musicians first, and then they write words as, kind of like it's almost like the lyrics are supplementary to the music. At least, I don't know, that's how I feel, but I think they're, Leonard Cohen and stuff, there are obviously exceptions. But I think to start with it that way, it just brings out a side of you and a side of your writing that you weren't aware of before. But then, I mean, when we got working together, it's funny because I notice now, like when people talk about the songs, they're like, "Oh, I love the lyrics of this song," and like people didn't really say that much about my lyrics.
Aww,
No,
good lyrics.
they're good. They're good, I guess, but like they're not as good as Warren's. So like I think that people holding on to the lyrics of the song like just gave me a bigger respect for lyrics in general, because I never was like very much a lyrics person, even as a music listener. But now I've like become more of that through working with Warren.
Cool. Yeah, you both bring something super different and unique and important to the table. I think like there are definitely, like, if we're talking about like lyrics and music, two different types of music lovers. The ones who go to music because they like feel the lyrics and like the emotion there, and one who go to the music to feel like the instrumentation and the sound.
Yeah.
And so putting it, like trying to figure out how to mesh those two both together is. So obviously you started this band in quarantine, and you haven't been able to play music at all as a band. That's been really weird, probably, right?
Yeah, because we haven't even, when we started taking this seriously and like releasing music, we always knew that we would have to add other people into the band as like a live thing, and I assumed that there would be like guys in my band that would maybe help out, but in my old band. But now that like we're kind of collapsing it all into one, and those like the guys from Night on the Sun are gonna like be the live band for us. I'm really excited about that, because I like Warren knows them a little bit too. We only met a couple times, but I've been playing with them for like 10 years now, so we have like a really good rapport with them. And we just got a booking agent too, which is really no use to us right now, but when we do it, when shows are able to happen again, we can hopefully get on some better shows than we were doing before. So we just gotta rehearse a lot, which we've only been able to do, the two of us so far. But how do you feel about it?
I'm super excited. It's like I said before, I know it's going to be it's a learning curve for me, because like the musicians that he's talking about are like his childhood friends, and they're all, incredible instrumentalists. So yeah, just adapting the way that I grew up playing and the way that I was taught to play. I mean, even the first time that Nick kind of had me playing more to a metronome, because especially the way that I learned to play piano and the way that I like to play, it's very much at my own pace. And if I really like a thing, I might slow it down and then speed up another part for emphasis. But like when you're playing with other people, that completely changes it, because you can't, just be on your own little like world at that point. So I think that I'm really, really looking forward to it, and excited to dive in and be able to hang out with his bandmates and do it like all together and have them,
And I mean, Warren's also, you mentioned before, Warren is like a classically trained pianist, which is like that's also like the exact opposite school of music that I come from. Like I don't really know much about music theory, and I definitely can't sight read or anything like that. So like us colliding in that way, like she's been able to teach me more about music theory and just like things that I had never really partially because I've never really learned it, partially because my bandmates are also like, they're like jazz guys who went to NYU and stuff. They're like really know about that stuff. So my musical language was always being like, you know that, like when we go like, and they were like, yeah, I got you. Like, we can do that. But now that Warren knows that too, it's like kind of, because I can't always communicate what I want to her as well. So I'm like kind of trying to get a better knowledge of music theory so we can communicate better musically.
Yeah, I can't imagine like working on something like this now during this. I mean, there's so many people who are starting all kinds of projects now, and it's really great. But props to you for like working on this and sticking it through. And that's awesome that like it just like happened the way that it did.
Yeah, I mean, it was something for both of us to hang on to emotionally, and something that we could, work together on and feel like we're being productive through this like incredibly scary time where most of the time you kind of wanted to just watch Netflix, which I did a lot. I mean, you probably did too, but like we had each other to talk to and kind of bounce fears and frustrations off of while we were making really cool music. So that was like, it's super, I'll never forget that couple months, super invaluable time in my life.
So Lie Heartfelt, that's coming out on the 26th. How did that song get written and created, and what's the story behind the song?
A lot of that instrumental, it was kind of like a sort of rudimentary form that I had of that sort of beat back in 2017, like right when I moved to New York. I was working on that, and I kind of just let it sit because I tried to bring it to my band and we didn't really know what to do with it, partially because it's like a very melodic instrumental, so we had a hard time putting words over it, or vocal melodies. So I just kind of let it sit for a couple years, and then when I was like going through some old beats and played that one for Warren. And,
I loved it.
Yeah, and we kind of like sat down with it a couple weeks ago, and we're like, all right, let's try to write this. And we changed the production a whole lot. We changed. I mean, it was like a 30-second clip. It was like nothing. So we like worked on it together and built something out of it.
Yeah, but like I said, Nick is like a library of these cool, and like I love riding in the car with Nick too, because randomly he'll be like, okay, go and find this thing in his phone, and it'll be this like random demo that he made like 6 years ago, and then it'll be so good. I'm like, okay, I have to write lyrics to this right now, like we have to work on this. And I feel like that Lie Heartfelt was sort of like that. And then yeah, like taking it forward for like I think Nick is also like such a good producer too, and so sitting with him to do this one was really, really cool. And just seeing like everything that goes into it and all the layers, like it reminds me of the documents that I make like when I was in architecture school and stuff, with like all these layers in Photoshop, but they're all sounds, and it's just super sick. And yeah, it was a blast.
Cool. Well, everyone, we have a little surprise for you. We actually are going to premiere their song Lie Heartfelt right now. So check out the end of this video. Thank you all for joining us today, and so nice to meet you, Warren and Nick. And here's Lie Heartfelt.
One chance, trying to find you. It's the last dance. What will I do when you ride me close, love? I should've known that I would be lost now. I said they were all half true. He was a lie, heartfelt. He sang right on cue. in love, caught a romance in the nightclub. How you unravel my heart, dear. Let me know if you wanna disappear. Now the things I said, they were all half true.